You're listening to From the Beginning, a deep dive into the life and times of creatives from around the world.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of From the Beginning, FTB, episode 2. I think you guys are going to really enjoy this one today. We have the one and only, the man himself, Matt Jolly, aka Krinkels, the creator of Madness Combat, Madness Project Nexus, Newgrounds veteran, amazing artist and animator. I think you guys are going to really enjoy today. We had a great sit down, a great chat about life and how he got his start on Newgrounds, how he got his start with making art and animations, and of course some of the origins of Madness Project Nexus and Madness Combat. And I think I think I'm definitely finding my way with this whole podcast hosting business. And he seemed to enjoy himself as well, and that's what's really important. This podcast is about the creatives and the people, the guests that we have on. They're the ones telling their stories, and so I really hope that not only do you guys enjoy listening, but that the guests themselves also enjoy being on the show. Because if I'm not a good host and if the show is not good, then why would people come on it in the first place? And so I think after having one episode out already now, letting that sit for a while, and taking some feedback from a few people, seeing doing some research, seeing what kind of things I can improve on. Obviously trying to get more guests, more episodes out. I'm still new to the whole YouTube thing. I'm still new to the whole kind of editing thing. Audio is kind of my background, but that's still sort of new to me in terms of the podcast areas. But you know what? I think today went really well. I think you guys will really enjoy it. All those kind of things. What is it? Leave a like, subscribe. If you know anybody who might be interested in listening and hearing some cool stories from Krinkels, then please share it around. Tell your friends. This is something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and in my opinion, it's going really well. So, you know what? I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you for listening. And we're live. That's how it goes. So, how you doing, dude?
I'm doing good.
It feels like we've kind of, I've known you for a while now, and I still feel like we haven't properly talked, because I know Funkle and a lot of people that we're in the kind of same circles with. But
yeah. It's weird how Discord's made us we're able to know so many people, but not really.
It is strange. Yeah, because I remember Funkle asked me to join the Madness server, and obviously not to be a kind of fanboy, but I knew of you previously, because I grew up playing games on Newgrounds and stuff like that, and so it was really cool to join the community and be a part of it and help out,
right?
Because obviously I knew that Funkle had done PR for Giving Tree for a few years now.
Yeah, he's been an asset, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I found out the other day that you guys actually pay him.
Well, yeah, because we want him to we want him on the clock and on call when shit goes wrong.
Yeah, it makes complete sense.
When we're monopolizing that much of his time, a little bit of a payment's kind of required. I imagine that when the Discord gets less popular over time, there'll be less of a need for that. But right now, we need to be able to pull on his leash and be like, Funkle, fix it.
Oh yeah, dude, for sure. He is a great sort of father figure for the server.
Dude's really ego free. Doesn't get get his ham steamed about any of this stuff. It's great.
No, he's. I mean, as I've told you before, me and Funkle now have been friends for 9 years, and he's. It's funny because I'm older than him, but I'm the one usually going to him for advice and wisdom, because he's a very wise man, and he definitely knows what he's doing.
Funkle's got that. I don't know. Just he introduced me to the band. Yes, I'm twice his age, and he's like, "Hey, have you heard of Yes?" And I'm like,
Wait,
"Yeah,
really?
sort of." yeah, and he's like, yeah, I've heard of yes. What about it? And he's like, yo, but it's like, it showed me kind of like the lineage of like prog rock and how it fed into Primus, and I was like, well, okay, now I'm talked into it,
Yeah,
and so
it's crazy, man. Yeah, because I
yeah,
mean,
so
you know,
yeah, good dude.
I've always described him because obviously you've met him.
Mhm.
You know him. You guys went to Las Vegas together, didn't you? You went shooting.
Yeah, we went shooting. Yeah,
Yeah, I went shooting as well because I think I told you
that
about
was
it.
in March. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So
I was
I
toying with the
actually.
idea of going, but like schedule is just no
Oh
good.
yeah, no, dude, it's all good. Like, but it was a really cool trip because I finally got to meet these guys that I've known for like 8 9 years, and we hung out, went to shoot guns,
Yeah,
and
yeah, he's
did
got
loads
that
of cool stuff.
308, the PTR, right?
Yeah, dude, the G3, it's really
Hmm.
nice.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
got
I
he
got
got,
the yeah, I've always wanted to shoot one of those. I kind of want to get one because I like the Heckler and Koch pattern of rifles.
hmm I mean, it's his favorite gun, as far as I'm aware.
Hmm.
It's the one that he's always spoken about over the years, and like the one that he's always wanted to have. And the fact that I remember when he bought it, and he got it for an absolute steal,
Like
because it's got
$1,100 or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
like for real, and it's got loads of custom furniture on it, and
Mhm, mhm.
he got it for like I would say 2/3 of the price of what it would
Oh,
probably
easily.
cost.
Yeah, yeah. You want to get one of those new, you're looking at least 1,800 or 2,000.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Like, but yeah, man, it was awesome to see all these guys that I basically grew up with on the internet, and
Dude, I
now,
still like I'm like 41. I still don't get used to that shit. Like
oh,
not a
dude,
couple weeks ago I was in Los Angeles and like hanging out with like Rice Pirate, Mick, like just
yeah,
like Kaylin Whitfield and all these other people like I meet on Twitter and Newgrounds and shit. I'm like, all right, you guys are like human beings and you're
yeah, you
great.
you exist.
Yeah.
That was literally my reaction when they picked me up from the airport. I was like, holy shit, yeah, you're a real person. You exist.
Right, right.
You know?
It settles funny because like the way the internet has been like such a primary means of communication lately.
Yeah, you sort of
Mm.
you spend so much time like as much as like internet interaction is still very meaningful,
Mhm.
when you actually meet that person or whoever it is, like it becomes so much more real, and like
Right,
it's
right. And
it's
you just
still
click and vibe with them right away. There's
yeah,
like
it's like
some
oh yeah,
sort of
it's like
joy to that.
it's almost like I've actually known you for like 8 years already, and this isn't
Right.
actually, as much as this may be like the first time we're meeting, we actually do know each other very well.
Right, right.
you know,
Yeah, 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 it's cool shit. Cool shit.
yeah, man. I mean, I feel like that would be the same if you kind of grew up interacting with somebody on Newgrounds or like watching their
Oh
shit.
no, yeah, yeah. I
And
remember like the very first time I went out to New what was it, Comic Con in like 2007 or 8. The very first time I meet like Tom Fulp and the cavalcade of Newgrounders.
yeah,
Um yeah, like it was San Diego Comic Con. I think like 2007, but like the convention hadn't exploded to what it is now in
yeah,
2022. Like it was still a pretty manageable size. So like it was a really really cool time. But like yeah, the fact that like you've never met this person face to face, but now like you're near them and everything's familiar. Like you already have all the data.
yeah. You
It's
you already have like
really
talking
cool.
points and like
Mhm.
shit that you're both into, and like you've kind of because you've basically grown up in the same community. It's like you've known them without knowing them. You
Mhm,
know.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, it's great.
Especially when you're
Yeah.
like watching somebody's, I don't know, if you're watching somebody's animations or playing,
Mhm, mhm.
like their games. It's like, oh, I know you and I know the stuff you make, but and now I'm meeting the real you,
Right,
the
right. The
person
old
behind it all.
breathing and bleeding. Like there
Yeah,
you are in person.
yeah, exactly, man. Yeah. Okay. So, like I said, I've got like a talking points thing here. I don't know how much I'll stick to it. Um,
Mhm.
but I went back through a few things, and I saw that you actually joined Newgrounds in 1999.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God. Like that was around a period of time when I had just discovered Newgrounds and had been hounding the site for Pico's school and like
Yeah,
anything that Tom Fulp was posting. Like by the time I got to Newgrounds, like way back in the day, there was no portal like to speak of. It was just Tom uploading his stuff to a website.
yeah,
And then there came a portal that was just something that you'd click and then some random thing would come up. And then he started just adding user content to it, and then he added the automated version, that we all know and love,
yeah,
the earliest versions of it. But like, yeah, it was 2019 or 1999 when I was working at General Meters. Meters. It's a weird company that put together computers.
Oh, okay.
It was the only place I could go that had like high speed internet. So I'd go and like work and put together computers and goof around on the internet whenever there wasn't shit to do. And that, like, the fact that we had high speed there and not at home was really the only reason I was able to jump on Newgrounds so quickly.
Really? Yeah, because I
Um,
can imagine. Obviously, I mean, 1989 dial-up is still
yeah,
the
yeah.
main way to access the internet, and there's no fiber or anything like that. So
I
it's
think I was still
it's
using like a 28.8 modem at my house, so like
yeah,
it was forget it. Like, um, it was like either at school or at work that I'd be hanging out in Newgrounds at, and like yeah, once Tom had the registration system in place, I just jumped on it with both feet, and just like yeah, no,
it's funny with that
Newgrounds is
because
still I just love how like the mission statement of Newgrounds hasn't changed a whole lot. It's
well, yeah,
just user generated content.
yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, it's weird to think like, you know, 1999. I mean, that how old are you in 99?
Oh, I was 19 to 20 years old.
Right. So, and it's funny that you kind of discovered Newgrounds,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
started discovering all this stuff. And there's people nowadays
It was-
in the exact same position you were,
mhm.
discovering your content or anybody else's content. Whereas obviously you kind of got to be there in the OG, like and when it was just Tom Fulp, and
Like a small handful of like,
yeah,
people might remember names like Brian Beaton and like all that shit.
yeah,
Oh
exactly.
Christ, there's Skull Kid, all these other things
Oh,
that
dude, I
like
remember Skull Kid. Holy shit!
it was not
Wow.
even a game. It was, but it captivated us. It was great.
Yeah, dude.
Like all the assassin videos games there, like you could click on Britney Spears and she gets shot in the head with that weird stock sound.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
this goofy shit.
Well, yeah. I mean, because it's funny because I had a similar thing. Like before I got uh you know before I was probably had access to the internet and I had a computer or
Mhm,
anything like that. School was like the only place that I could access the internet, and so I'd go to the
mhm,
library
mhm.
or wherever. During my break or whatever, and I'd be going through Newgrounds or like Congregate or anything like that.
Yeah. I
Um,
remember like Something Awful and Fark were places I'd stomp around to anytime I got myself a internet connection.
yeah, no, absolutely, dude, and it's crazy to me, like just thinking back now, like we just celebrated 20 years of madness.
Hmm.
Like thinking about 20 years ago, people were creating and discovering content in exactly the same way. It's just maybe nowadays there's a lot more people and it's a bit faster.
Yeah. No, like we've just been accelerating and it's been sort of amazing. Is this like, would we be able to call this a renaissance of just like everyone showing up with art and it's all pretty cool?
Yeah, dude, absolutely. I mean, it's I can't imagine a time where madness wasn't just constantly growing. Um,
Hmm.
because it's always been, I feel like, and I think a lot of people listening would agree with this, like it's always been a staple of Newgrounds.
Yeah, one of the tent poles from back in the day. Yeah. And I think a big part of why it's even relevant today is because of like the fans. They're always like making art, making
Yeah.
cartoons, discussing it. Like, if it weren't for the fact that the fans are so willing to like make their own interpretations of it, I don't think it would be sticking around quite so well, you know? So,
Yeah, dude. I mean,
and I
it's
think, and it's like Madness Comet isn't the only thing with a fandom out there, of course. But like, there's just something about these kids. They're just like so eager to add to the mythos of it,
yeah, man.
and that's I don't know. It was a lot of fun to watch.
It is, dude. It's always fun to like. I mean, we were discussing lore just before we started recording, and like
Mhm.
you know, madness doesn't necessarily always have like a concrete lore, but in my opinion, I think that's a good thing because it then means like people come out of the woodwork with their own ideas and their own sort of conspiracy theories about what's happening in the madness universe, and I think that just adds to it all because
Yeah. I
people
mean,
make their
like,
own characters and like
I think
random
like
shit.
something that got really cemented in during the project Nexus when Swain and I were putting that together is that like there's a lot of hard fast rules of like the world, right? Like
Yeah,
uh, I don't want to like give examples, but like, like the fact that when you die, you go to the other place or
yeah,
the auditor or something like that. Like,
yeah.
there's all these like hard, fast rules, but instead of like writing it down and then presenting it to the audience, we're just like letting the world operate around these rules, and then people are able to infer all sorts of shit.
Yeah, no, exactly, man. People come up with their own assumptions and like kind of maybe notice a little thing here and there, like, oh, that was,
Yeah, and it's
there
all kind
was,
of weaved in the correct direction because we're sticking to these rules
yeah,
that like aren't necessarily like out there. So I feel like once everyone knows what's going on, like it's less interesting.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Like any horror game. Like it seems like 90% of horror games have this problem where the more you play it, the more you understand, the less engaging the whole thing becomes. And
Yeah,
like
like by the end, you know all the lore and all the kind of all
yeah, or
the
worse yet,
characteristics of it. You know.
you know the meta of the game. Like
Oh yeah.
it's become mechanical and like I'm not saying that that's bad, but like that's just a eventuality I'd like to avoid,
Well,
at least for the most
that's
part.
why I wish. So I so often I wish I was able to like play games for the first time again.
Oh
Because it's
yeah.
like, with so many games, like, obviously there's kind of exceptions with say like Skyrim or anything like that, where games that have kind of sort of, and I guess unlimited replayability, but with a lot of
Mhm.
games, especially story-driven games, I wish I could go back and play them for the first time and like experience that suspense and experience that like
The
unknowing of
suspense and
what was going to happen.
discovery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You
Yeah, like
know.
I'm playing through a game here recently, Phoenix Point,
Mm.
and it's a lot of fun. And for that exact same reason, I have, it's based on the XCOM mythos. Like you're
Oh,
on a
nice.
planet,
Yeah.
there's aliens everywhere, whatever. And like just as I'm figuring, like turning over rocks and figuring shit out, like I'm having a really good time of it. And like I'm not looking into the lore too hard. I'm just sort of like, oh look, there's a bunch of crazy things happening. This is
Yeah.
great. Like I don't understand, I don't need to understand, but like I need to understand how to maneuver. And that's I don't know. And you're right because like we'll never be able to play these things, especially when they like established some of the tropes.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
you can't go back. Like you can't go back to Skyrim and play it like it's a game anymore. Like now
No,
it's
it's
just
now
this
it's
it's just this mechanical thing. You see all the meta. You see the Matrix.
Well, yeah,
Like
it's
yeah.
and it's the same with like say Fallout or anything like that. Like you kind of,
Well,
I still go back to it and enjoy it and enjoy the experience.
oh, for
Like,
sure, for sure. We're
in
not like
terms
jaded
of
and done with it. Yeah.
no, but now I find myself more just enjoying the mechanics of it, like finding
Mhm,
those
mhm.
satisfying instead of like learning the story and the universe for the first time.
Yeah,
Like all
yeah.
those years ago. It's now more just like, oh, I enjoy it for what it is. You
It's
know?
just the mechanical aspect. Yeah, yeah. I remember getting a huge kick out of Death Stranding. I played that game all the way through. And when it invites you to play it again, I'm sitting there thinking like, nah, I feel like the second playthrough, I'm just gonna be like metagaming.
Yeah,
And like I had so much fun just playing it and struggling and not understanding anything and like having lore dumped on me and then like having to hike around and figure all this shit out. And by the end, it felt like you accomplished something.
yeah, dude.
The second run, I'm just gonna metagame and like do a great job and have a fun time. But like, no,
Yeah, no, it's
I got mine. I'm good.
yeah, there's nothing quite like that first time. I mean, it was the same for
Mhm.
me with Stray. Have you played that yet?
No, everyone tells me it's actually good though. I'm kind
It's
of curious.
yeah, so it's one of the best games I've ever played, hands down.
Shit,
Period.
that's a bold statement. So
I
it's like
know.
well beyond the gimmick of just playing as a cat.
Yeah, it it has no right to have a story as good as it does.
Hmm.
And has no right to be as beautiful as it is for a game
Mhm.
that sort of came out of nowhere, without much, without much pre-marketing and big AAA
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
status.
It really did
Uh,
just drop on us like
it
with a
really did,
week's
yeah,
notice.
yeah, absolutely. And then obviously, like within that week, a lot of people got excited for it, but you
Mhm,
know,
mhm.
the the um the impact that it had on me, I was not expecting at all.
Oh, I love that.
Um, and I won't kind of hog the conversation here, but there was one other game that did the exact same thing for
Hmm.
me, which was Hard Space Shipbreaker. Have you seen that game?
I haven't even heard of that one.
No, I hadn't either. This was a
Mhm.
game that just kind of popped up in my recommendations. It came out in May,
Uh-huh.
this year, and it's basically it's. I won't spoil it for anybody who hasn't played it, but
Mhm,
it's
mhm.
basically a game where you're like a scrapyard worker in space, and you have to break down ships that have come in derelict and broken,
Oh,
and you have to like scrap them in a proper way to make money, right? Um,
okay.
but like that's the main core gameplay element. But
Mhm.
along with that, you have this like story about workers' rights and big corporations and like unions and like all this shit that I was just not expecting whatsoever just kind of hit me in the face. And I finished the game, I was like, what just happened? Like
Mhm, mhm.
I
I
played
was
this.
just trying to scrapyard and then all this shit happened.
Yeah, no, for real, dude. Like I was just kind of like it was literally one of those games that I picked up because I didn't really know what else to play.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
then, you know, 26 hours later, I'm like, oh shit. That was actually really good.
That was a little more than I had anticipated.
Yeah.
I feel like that sort of happened with Papers, Please, where it gives you like a core mechanic game
Oh
that
yeah.
like you're playing the game, and then like all the shit's happening around it that
Yeah.
like contextualizes what you're doing, and
Absolutely.
and then by the time you get done with it, like you said, like you're just like, fuck, I just wanted to do my day job, and I had all this horrible shit happen.
Yeah, it's those games that kind of they kind of bring you in with that sort of promise of gameplay and then just throw a bunch of lore at you that you weren't expecting and you're like, holy shit, I wasn't prepared for this and now I'm like staying up at night trying to figure out like what the
I
fuck
might
just
have to.
happened.
I'm gonna have to look that one up. That one sounds interesting.
It really is, man. I was not expecting it, but and I will absolutely go and pick it up like every now and then when I'm bored and
Mhm.
because as much as yeah, the lore and the story is amazing, the gameplay is also amazing.
It's still pretty good.
It's
Yeah.
still just a fun game like because it's not just like destruction, it's like you have to calculatingly that's not a word, you have to very like accurately take apart this ship to make sure that you get the most out of it.
Mhm,
Like you
mhm.
actually have to scrap things in a meaningful way to then send them off to the right kind of places in terms of like just the actual scrap itself, but then there's also like computers on board and cargo that you have to send off, and like it had way more elements than I was expecting.
Right, right. No, it sounds deep and broad. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it was only like $30, like not an indie game, but not a AAA game, kind of that sort of
Right, right. Somewhere in
in
the
between
middle
vibe.
there.
But yeah, dude, I would absolutely recommend picking it up. And the same with Stray as well.
Mhm, mhm. No, yeah, Stray, more and more Stray feels like one of those games that's going to be mandatory here before long.
Yeah, and it was only about 5 hours the whole game. It's not a big
You know,
game.
I'm not gonna lie, I do like me a short, punchy single player
Well,
experience.
yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about with Funkel was that when I finished it, I was like, there was no filler. That was like exactly as long as it needed to be.
Hmm, hmm.
Even though I could have happily played another 20 to 30 hours of it because it was just beautiful. But in terms of the story and just the way the game goes, because it's a linear game,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah, no, I have no qualms with linear. I like the focused kind of experience you get with that.
yeah, and the game just kind of flows in a way, and you just like I basically played it in one sitting, um, and then when it finished, I was like, that was perfect. You
Hmm,
know,
hmm.
no filler, exactly as long as it needed to be, and it was just one of those things that left me very warm inside.
That's awesome. No, 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 yeah, I'll check that out.
Yeah, man. Oh, right. So let's see what else we got here. I know I'm trying to make this as like I'm trying to make it flow as best as possible, but this is still all very new to me. So
I would just bang
bear
through the
with me.
old talking point list. What we got?
Yeah. So going back to Newgrounds and stuff like that, how did you actually first like find it? How did you first sort of uh
I'm kind of
before
amazed that I'm kind of amazed that I still remember that shit. It was like Christ, was it like 2000 or 2000? That's how long ago this was. I can't remember if it was like 97 or 98 or what. Probably closer to 98, but like my friend introduced me to it. My friend Roger, like
right.
he was living with his dad, and his dad had like a pretty decent computer to get on the internet. And like he just showed, he's like, look at the site, it's Newgrounds, it's great. It's got like Teletubbies and shit. And I'm like, wow, they're like smoking pot and shooting each other and summoning the devil. This is amazing. And like,
Proper kid stuff.
yeah, yeah. Well, like, I think like aside from the comedic value of like watching, the Teletubbies do their nonsense, like you had like this like some guy out there with the software just made this and threw it on the internet.
Yeah.
And that was the shit that hooked me. And like, it took me a while before I got my hands on a copy of Flash and started contributing, but like it's just like there's something really exciting about someone like making something and just putting it out on the internet and going like, hey everyone, look what I did.
Yeah, like
And like,
no incentive for like money or anything like that.
oh yeah, yeah, no, there's no adverts on his pages. All of it's out of his pocket and out of his he has to burn his own time to make it.
Yeah.
It's a very genuine endeavor, and it's not that the genuineness is what caught me. It's just the fact that like some guy is just doing this because he wants to, and I'm like, that's my shit. I love it. I love it. I want in on this.
And
And so
so
like we just watched his cartoons all the time, like over and over again, because like it was amazing.
yeah.
No one was making content like this.
Yeah.
It was either this or like whatever was on television, which was God,
Not
this is
much
around
of
the
it, I'm
time I'm finding.
imagining.
This is around the time that I'm finding shit like Sean Baby too. You know, like that
Yeah.
dude who's like invented being funny on the internet. So like, it was really, really starting to occur to me that like the internet is just way funnier and way better at entertainment than like television and movies and all that stuff.
Well, yeah, I
And
mean, you got to imagine that like the internet has, at least back then, I mean, there's a lot more kind of guidelines and rules and stuff like that nowadays, but TV has always had very strict kind of policy and guidelines to
oh
stick
yeah,
to
yeah.
get stuff on TV and movies and stuff like that, whereas like the internet has always just been a place for you to just kind of like, like vomit whatever you want to make onto the internet and
Oh
just
yeah, it
have
was
it be out there
absolutely
for
lawless
everybody to
there.
see.
Yeah, it was absolutely lawless there for a while.
Yeah, I mean, a lot. I've heard a lot of people actually like describe the early days of the internet as like a kind of new frontier, Wild West type thing.
Yeah, you're just running around screaming, no rules. It was kind of
Yeah,
wild.
yeah, dude. I
Mm.
could really imagine. And I'm 24, and I guess I was, I kind of got a glimpse of like the sort of early 2000s era of the internet, but not
Mhm.
quite. Not quite like the really early days in terms of when everything was really new,
Right.
and sort of people were discovering animation for the first time. People were discovering kind of like internet cartoons, and I guess like the early days of like memes and shit like that. Like I definitely would have loved to be around for that sort of Renaissance era of
Mhm.
the internet.
Like
But it's
coming of
also
age with the punctuated by the .com bubble bursting. That was
exactly,
something
yeah,
else.
web
Yeah.
web 2.0 and all that kind of stuff. Um, yeah, it was
And for a
just.
hot minute there, they were really overvaluing what a flash cartoon was worth. It
Oh
was kind
yeah,
of nuts. Yeah.
absolutely, man. But at the same time, if it wasn't able to explode like it did, it might not be around still.
Oh no, no, yeah. This is the organic kind of like process of like just wherever you go, there you are, sort of a thing.
Yeah, and it's sort of like the same. Well, it's sort of the same, but not with sort of say forums and message
Mhm.
boards and things like that from the early era of the internet. Because I remember being on like some early forums and things like that, and
Mhm, mhm.
you know, they kind of, some of them lasted longer than others, and some other ones, maybe if they were for like kind of niche fandoms or whatever, maybe died out after a little while. But Newgrounds
Right.
was always one of those places that just seems to have always stayed on top of it and stayed around and just kept growing, and just
Yeah,
kept
yeah.
adding more and more features and fucking games, cartoons, and everything.
Yeah,
It's
no,
just,
like
it's
Tom
always
Tom runs
boggled me.
Tom runs an excellent ship. That whole site is just amazing in that like it hasn't really wavered from its original mission statement like at all
Yeah,
in the last 20 years because it's such a good idea. Everything by everyone. Like I
yeah,
think originally like the tagline was like problems in the future today, but that's, just the early edgy nonsense.
yeah.
And
That
then
that
it
that that
really
first, like, that
it,
everything
it
by
started to
everyone.
put on the like, hey, everyone by everyone, everything by everyone banner. Once that started flying, it like really cemented in the fact that like this is just self-propagating,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, is it because obviously back in the day it was just Tom, but is it,
Mhm.
I would assume nowadays it's a business because most things have to be some kind of business.
I
Is
mean,
it
yeah.
still kind of just him, or?
Well, I think it's like him and Jeff and like a couple other people working there.
Yeah,
I haven't been keeping up too hard with the business side of things, but yeah, no, it's still just a small little ragtag team.
yeah, that's cool,
Yeah.
man. That's really nice to see that stuff like that,
Mhm.
lasts, and that there's still people discovering it
Mhm.
like for the
Oh
first
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah, and they're discovering it much in the way that we discovered it back in the day, and
Yeah,
that like it's a portal full of user generated content that's actually like pretty entertaining. So like,
yeah,
yeah,
dude.
it's a very inviting kind of environment.
Yeah, it's in that sense, it's even like easier than YouTube or anything like that. Like, I mean, because at
Mhm.
YouTube, and we'll go into this as well, because obviously that will actually segue nicely into the YouTube kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
you take any other kind of any sort of social media or anything like that, you know,
Mhm.
uh, with YouTube, I feel like there's always kind of well, at least nowadays, there's always kind of a different motive behind it, whether it's to make money or to become famous or become popular or some kind of influencer or anything like that. But like with something like Newgrounds, you didn't have to do any of that. It was just I drew something cool here. Have
Yeah,
a
here's my
look.
animation, here's my music, here's my drawing, you
Yeah,
know.
Like there was no real, there was, and obviously I feel like, if you get to a point with art or anything like that, you want to be able to make some money off of it,
I
not
mean,
not
we
not
live
for
in a
like,
society after all. Yeah,
we live in a
it's
society, yeah,
making some
capitalism,
cash off of it would be nice.
yeah, but at the same time, it's not necessary, right? Whereas I feel like on some platforms, it's funny, I say this as I'm going to be uploading this to YouTube, but but
It is what it is. It
yeah,
is what it
it's a
is. And like,
self-fulfilling kind of thing.
well, I feel like the big difference is like, sure, there's a lot of people who upload to YouTube just for the sake of it, and like, I don't know. I haven't really put a whole lot of thought into it, but just shooting from the hip, it feels like YouTube is incentivizing some very strange sort of content lately.
Yes.
Well, not lately, like all the time.
Oh yeah.
They want 15-minute videos that are punchy and like twice a week, and
Yeah.
just full of someone talking about something, just so that it gets asses in seats and you adverts
Yeah.
watched. And of
And
course, the more of
monetization.
these yeah, the more of these videos that get the ads and get the ads looked at, like the better. So I mean, I understand that's just how they run their business. Um, but it's definitely made it more. Well, I don't know. I don't even know if it's more, but like it just kind of like shows that Newgrounds is kind of what it is because it's it's less. It's
There's
see
there's
like
there's
I'm
less
trying to put
there's
the
less
words together in
capitalism
my head.
involved, right?
I just
It's
well because
more
like
it's more free.
you still make a few bucks off of it, but like it's hard to say that like there's any one type of content that makes the most money.
Yeah.
I mean, so people might argue that say like the kind of 18 or the adults only stuff is going to of course get the most attention, but I feel like that's it's the oldest profession there is. How are you going to do
Well,
about that?
yeah. But I mean,
Yeah.
I get what you mean in the fact that I feel like most people who make who put stuff on YouTube, and obviously there's going to be exceptions, but a lot of people
Oh
go
yeah, yeah.
into YouTube with the mentality of some kind of agenda, whether it's making money or whether it's trying to captivate an audience or anything like that. Whereas
Mhm, mhm.
Newgrounds, I don't think has ever really had that kind of, you have to go in with a certain mentality. You can literally just make an account and chuck a
You
bunch
just
of
start
and just
just
and just
upload your
start.
nonsense.
Yeah,
And like the nice thing is like you start to like run into people who make stuff like yours, or
exactly.
you like their content, they like your content. And
You
it's
know
less
what?
about like, oh,
That's
your content makes so much money, let's be pals. It's more like, wow, your content is effed up just the right way. Let's
yeah.
let's
You
let's
know
have a
what?
fucking chat about it.
I think you've hit the nail right on the head there. It's the
Mhm,
social aspect of it. It's the it's
mhm,
the it's the connection aspect of it because YouTube, you know, unless you kind of talk about PR teams and agents and things like that, you
mhm.
you know you don't really have that kind of social connection with bigger creators anymore. Um,
Yeah,
and,
it's
and a lot of
tough.
time it's not possible. I
Yeah, I still
understand
like
that.
I'm still able to like reach out and like get a hold of people here and there through the YouTube channels, but like I don't know. It also could be that like I use YouTube as a repository because I kind of have to. Maybe that's why I'm not feeling the community over there.
Yeah,
But yeah, yeah. In either event, I could just say that like the Newgrounds community is a lot more like tangled up in itself and a lot more
yeah.
self-interested.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with YouTube has its fingers in so many pies, whether it's advertising or Google or, all these kind of big things, whereas, like you just said, Newgrounds has always just sort of kept itself rolling with its own momentum.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like, here, look at my video. It only got 100 video or 100 views, but it's great.
Yeah, exactly.
And
There's no rhyme or reason to it because there doesn't have to be,
yeah.
you know? Yeah, so like when you made the when you made the transition then to because obviously I know that Madness Combat itself is older than the actual uploads on YouTube. Um,
Mhm.
But when did you kind of make the decision that okay, maybe this needs to go on YouTube because it might get more people interested, or more people will
Oh
be able to see
Christ.
it, or
Oh man. Okay, so like it was. When did I make my YouTube account? Like 2009 or something. I can't remember, but like it was I was going to San Diego Comic Con a lot once a year to go meet with the Newgrounds guys, and I remember
hmm
like I can't even remember who I was talking to, but like we were just talking like shop and business and that, and he said like, oh, you got to make yourself a YouTube account, man. Everyone's out there, like if you're an artist, it really helps to have like a flag in that hill. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. I don't understand. And what really kind of helped change my mind on that is that I went to YouTube and I saw like just a lot of re-uploads of my work. And that's bad enough. But then I saw people like trying to like supplant credit or like just remake things and just be goofy about it. And, it's early YouTube, so I get it. Like people are just going to be kind of crazy and out there.
Yeah,
But that was one of the big reasons I was like, okay, we need to have like a quote unquote official Krinkels YouTube out here. And so like I just put my cartoons up there and didn't really look back. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Um,
But I mean,
I just
it's
use it as a repository and be like, yeah, I'm here too, guys.
yeah. But I mean, it's not been a bad thing, at least in my
No, no,
opinion.
I
It's
just had to get over my indifference or dislike of YouTube.
yeah,
And you're like, all right, fine, I'm here, I'm at the party. Like, yeah, it's just the cost of doing business. If I insist on being out there and recognized, then I may as well put a flag in that hill.
yeah. I mean, and as much as Madness sort of originated on Newgrounds, it's not a bad thing to have it in multiple places.
Mhm.
For more people to
Yeah,
see it,
because it's well,
especially as
like I said, people were going to upload it there anyways, and I'm
yeah,
like, okay, let's get the 4K version up there at least.
yeah,
Let's do this right.
yeah,
Let's clean it up.
yeah, dude.
And
No, for
then
real. Yeah,
yeah.
like actually have it. Okay, if people want to see it, then they might as well see it. Like
Yeah,
the way
yeah.
God
Actually,
intended. You know.
that's actually the probably the better way or smarter way to look at it is like people are out there on YouTube looking for it, so let's just put it out there.
Yeah, they want it, give it to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's interesting because obviously YouTube is it's sort of I mean I'm not that as much as I watch YouTube I'm not really sort of in with behind the scenes of kind of how to
Oh, not at all. Not at
do
all.
any of that but it's like you've got a you've got a fair following on YouTube I would say I would say that's a fair
They
I would say
haven't
that's a fair one.
demonetized me even though I never upload. It's kind of cool.
Well, yeah,
That's
I mean yeah
like I
fair
upload
enough.
once or twice a year. Like I understand that if you don't upload often, they'll take away your check mark or some silly shit. And I'm like, oh, I don't know what kind of clemency I got with them, but like, yeah, I upload once or twice a year, and they let me keep my check mark.
Yeah, I mean maybe it's just
Yeah.
like eh, it's different because I think that your YouTube account is sort of untainted in a sense. Not not that everybody's is, but there's sort of a I can't think of what the word is really. There's sort of an innocence to it because it's just there as an archive of Madness Combat on YouTube. That's what it
Well,
is.
I guess
It doesn't have any kind of third purpose in that sense.
like me making 10-minute videos of like eating hamburgers in a car or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like it is what it is. You are Crinkles, you make Madness Combat, here's Madness Combat. It's to the point. It is what it is. And
Right.
I don't know if like YouTube really I don't know if YouTube kind of take notice of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's hard to say because I got like a million like zillions of channels and zillions of things to watch out for. It's all automated now, and I have no idea what keeps me in the check mark. But whatever, I'll keep going. It's fine.
Yeah. But I mean, do you still kind of look at it and go, "Wow, 500,000 people subscribe to me?"
I don't even know what that means. That's a number
No.
that's too big. I don't know
Yeah.
what half a million number. It's like our it's an insane figure to me.
See, I feel like
But
that's the
we'll
normal response.
like I don't know. Like I get like 150 people in my Twitch streams, and I'm like, wow, that's a shitload of people sitting there watching me or listening to me or whatever. That's a
Yeah,
lot. So
because I
someone's
feel
like,
like
yeah, 500,000 people get notified when I put a video on YouTube. I'm like, what's like on accident? What's going on?
yeah, and because I feel like in the YouTube space, like the numbers are so not real in a sense because like you've got people out there like Mr. Beast who have like
Oh
40
yeah, yeah.
like oh no god like 120
100
140
and 100 and
million
something. Yeah,
subscribers
it's
and that
insane. Yeah,
number is just that's more than a lot of countries you
yeah.
know and it's just I feel
And I know
like
that they're not all super fans. Sure, in fact, most
no
of them are probably just passively interested.
yeah exactly but it's still you like I don't feel like in because I feel like in the early days of YouTube, you got 1,000 subscribers.
Oh,
That
that was a
number
big
that
deal.
number's still like in your head. You can almost imagine 1,000
Hmm.
people if you even if you've been to a concert and you've seen a
Hmm.
thousand people, right?
And
But
across the whole planet, 1,000. Sure. Yeah.
exactly, and I still think that's great. Like I've played, I've played gigs in front of like a couple hundred people, and I thought that was fucking amazing.
Hell yeah, guys. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
doing it.
exactly. And but 'cause I see these numbers, and I don't even know what to think of them anymore.
It's
You
like
know,
500,000. Yeah, 500,000. Sure. Okay. Yeah.
And it's stupid to me that's considered like a small number on YouTube now, you know?
Hmm.
Even though in my mind it's not whatsoever. That
It's
is nothing
insane.
to scoff at whatsoever, you know? But, you know, in the sort of the big pond that is YouTube, you know, it's so weird to see these numbers just keep going up and up. Like I remember when like PewDiePie was like the most subscribed dude on the planet, and
With like 10 million or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he was like one of the first to hit 10 million, and they had to
And now
create.
he's got like, yeah, multiple. Yeah, but he's got like 100 million and something now.
Yeah,
Um,
it's stupid, man. I've never understood it, and I don't think I
well,
ever
I
will.
guess I guess a lot of it is coming from the fact that like developing countries are getting a lot more internet access, so we're
That's
starting to let
true.
a shitload of new people in,
That's
which is
true.
just cool as hell.
Yeah, dude.
Um, Dude, I mean, like, I don't need to tell you, it's kind of crazy just in the Madness Discord, like how everyone's from like all around the planet,
Yeah.
and and like you can see it sort. Well, like I can't, I don't want to say you can see it reflected in the art, but like the fact that like the art's coming from like literally everywhere, it's really fucking cool.
Well, it's like when we were sorting out the details for the contest,
Oh
and
Christ, yeah.
you and me were going back and forth. Like, you know, the winners were from like Canada, the Philippines, and like and another, I can't remember the other place, but like, you know, places that are completely, you know, opposite sides of the planet. You know,
Yeah.
even if we just go as far as like saying right now, like I'm in the UK and you're in Philly, and
Oh yeah,
like
yeah. This is a
like
big ass jump. Yeah.
yeah, do you know what I mean? And so that's always been one of the things that's like baffled me about, you know, the internet and just fandoms in general, is like how far they can
Mhm.
reach and stuff. It's always made like kind of like made my head sort of spin a little bit.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I don't know. I feel like that's like one of the greater aspects of living in this age. Like, sure, everything's on fire, but everything's always been on fire. Now I can
Yeah,
talk to someone from Kazakhstan, you
yeah,
know,
and talk to
and
them.
ask, what's the fire like in Kazakhstan? He's like, oh, it's terrible. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, that's a really good way to put it. Actually,
Yeah,
we're all kind of on this weird ship together, but we can finally actually talk about it.
yeah, yeah. And I feel like, thousands of years from now, they're going to look back at this period of time with great interest of like what was going on Earth when we started communicating globally.
Yeah,
Like because they'll be used to it by then in the year 4000. Like that'll just be how the culture works there. To like look back at like when we went from lights off to lights on and like all the screaming that occurred, like oh man, that's got to be super interesting.
yeah, dude. I like the idea of just, you know, there's, you know, you might, you know, before the internet, you kind of might have been close to people in your town or people in your city or people that you kind of live close to.
And if you
And
know a guy
now,
in the state over, oh, you were connected.
yeah, for real, like, oh wow, yeah, there's a guy I can, oh, I'm taking a trip next week and I found a guy to stay with like 2 states over. Holy shit. You know,
Must have
you
taken some
somehow,
doing, yeah.
yeah, you must have made like 6 phone calls.
Right, right. Phone calls, yeah. Remember them?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I know, man. Yeah, it's just, oh, it's always baffled me. And, you know, to think
Mhm,
now, like, even going back, you know, Madness is 20 years old now, you know,
mhm.
like, and just how far the internet has come in 20 years, you know, like,
Yeah, yeah. Its growth isn't necessarily linear. It's all over the place, but man, what a journey.
oh yeah, it's just, it's like, it's one of those things. It's just like, it's not like gone straight. It's not gone really down. It's just a line going straight up, you know,
And
every single
all over the
day.
place. Yeah.
Yeah. Up and fucking all over the place, you know. It's just weird, you know.
What a time.
Yeah, dude. And you've been around for a lot of it, and I don't mean that in like a God you're old way,
I
because
mean,
I've
it's I mean, it is what it is.
yeah, but I mean you've had a kind of unique experience on it because you've
Dude, I keep forgetting that like people are like walking around full ass adults walking
yeah,
around who've had access to high speed internet their entire lives. Like
yeah,
that's so fucking weird to me.
yeah, dude. I mean, you know, I kind of come from this sort of weird in between group of people who sort of I didn't quite grow up with the internet, and then as I kind of became a teenager, and then I had access to it.
Then it got a
Um,
lot more involved. Yeah.
yeah, then it became a lot more. It became a lot easier to be accessed by kind of everybody,
Mhm.
especially the UK. Um, but you know, Christ, you have like 13-year-olds in the Discord now who like
Mhm.
are discovering madness and you know kind
Yeah,
of
yeah. And the
grew up.
internet is just like it's
Oh, it's
there.
just it's
It's
there. It's
always been
always been
there.
there. Yeah, they never
Yeah.
knew it. They never knew any different. You know, like
Mhm.
what was like I guess I mean I don't want to kind of be repeating ourselves, but like what was again like being on the internet like in 2002
Well,
trying
you
to
just
trying to
fire.
make stuff.
I mean, like, unless you went to the college to use their internet or like my workplace, it was just you dial up and then hope no one picked up the goddamn phone.
Yeah,
Um, and then look at your favorite websites, which took all of like 30 minutes or an hour to like load and look at it, and then be like, well, that was all the internet I need, and then you'd go back outside,
yeah, like
like, or
because
do something else.
I'm
And
assuming
now I'm like hooked up to this damn thing at all times. I'm like, fuck, this is so weird. Like I can't seem to go without it.
well yeah, because like I would imagine like you wouldn't spend that much time on the internet back then.
No, no, there's no need for it. You look at your funny websites, and then what else? Like maybe do a chat room if you're feeling particularly social.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
like the old IRCs and shit.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird, man. It's interesting to think like, um, there may have been people who were around before the internet who then kind of discovered it, and then as it
Mhm,
came along, but then there's also people who have never really been on the internet, even if they're like in their 50s or 60s, who then
mhm.
start to discover like, holy shit, there's this thing that I
There's
can
something here
use.
for me.
Like,
Yeah.
even like, like one of my family members kind of just finally got on Facebook, and
Mhm,
like,
mhm.
and
Oh
just
no,
and
yeah,
just
yeah.
realized that like he can talk to people, and I actually found that really kind of, I found that really heartwarming to see that he could actually interact with like his buddies from when he was younger,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in a
No,
way that
no,
he didn't
there's
actually know existed.
right, right. I mean, that's the internet. Like, it's got a little something for everyone, and everyone loves to communicate. So,
Yeah, we've definitely, call it for better or for worse, but we've all definitely become a lot more connected over the past
yeah,
20
yeah.
years.
And like, there's like that strange new discipline coming about of like limiting your own exposure to the internet
Yeah,
that a lot of us are struggling with or developing mastery over.
yeah, it's now become a thing that because we've got so much access to it, it's
We
now
need to
like, oh,
start. Yeah,
we need to start going back the other way.
yeah. Well, like, it's like if you spent you grew up like famished and always just eating scraps, and then suddenly you're exposed to abundance. Like, oh man, you might get a little overweight because
Yeah,
you weren't accustomed to that. But like,
exactly.
yeah, no, like I find that like of course I'm not the only one, but I'm noticing it happening to a lot of people my age is like where we're intentionally limiting our exposure to the internet. Like I've got all these notifications on my Discord, my emails are all overflowing. Like it's fine. It's fine. The world's going to keep spinning even if I don't respond to everything. It's fine.
Yeah, like you
And
said
I
before, the
found a
world's
lot
on
of
fire, but it's okay.
it's all on fire. It's fine.
But it's always been on fire.
It doesn't right. Yeah, it doesn't matter if I look at all these Discord messages. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I've got a couple of other things here.
Sure.
We're kind of approaching the 1 hour mark, so I'm not sure how long we want this to go. We'll see how
Yeah, yeah.
how long it goes.
See how
Obviously,
how long the energy goes. I was
yeah,
out
dude.
climbing and biking all day, so I'm kind of
Oh
like on the
shit, really?
sleepier side.
Oh,
Dude,
nice
no,
man.
I love summer. Like heat, give me heat. So like I
Really, yeah.
cycled up to East Falls and then did climbing or did bouldering rather, not proper climbing, but just
Yeah, yeah.
bouldering for a couple hours. So like my hands are fried. I feel great. I'm gonna sleep like a rock tonight. Love it.
Mm-hmm. As you've been known to say, "Sun's out, guns out," eh?
Always, yeah, yeah. And
Always.
then like once fall comes around, then I put on the hoodie and start getting fat again. It'll be great.
I think a lot of people have been there. I think we know
Oh
what
yeah,
that's
yeah. You gotta
like.
gotta do that dirty bulk, man. I want the 300-pound bench press.
Oh hell yeah, dude. Yeah, I was thinking of going back to the gym recently. It's like I I've definitely been trying to get more into exercising at home because I know
Mhm,
that I can find if I can do it at home, then I can definitely find the time for it. Whereas trying to go to the gym
mhm.
requires kind of scheduling and organization. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Unless you're like out of your mind, like yeah, you gotta set aside time and set up a schedule. But like yeah, with my squat rack out in my den, first thing I do in the morning every day. It's easy.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've been definitely going for a lot more runs and a lot more walks and things like that because
Mhm.
um, yeah, I sort of realized that with everything that has been going on for me, like university and all that shit, I just hadn't been getting
Yeah.
outside very much,
Yeah.
and
Well,
so I was just like,
uni is important.
oh
Yeah.
yeah,
So
but I also just realized like, oh yeah, I kind of miss like trees and like birds and shit.
being like a human fucking being.
Yeah, dude, for real. Um, but yeah, speaking of staying inside all the time,
Mhm,
um,
mhm.
you have kind of had a sort of inkling into a lot of different areas of art and a lot of different kind of mediums of art, whether it's
Mm.
animating or drawing or I don't know. You've done voice and stuff, right?
A little bit, little bit.
Yeah,
I don't have a very strong vocal range, so like I've
that's
kind of
fair.
kept myself out of it. Like, it is what it is. I just recognize that like there's talent and skill and everything, and I have the zero. I can't develop the voice talent because one, I don't really care to, and two, like my starting point's kind of weak. So I'm like, hell with it, no voice.
That's fair.
And,
Yeah, no, I feel that, but like,
yeah.
I wanted to talk to you about because obviously, this is a podcast about kind of creatives and
Sure, sure.
sort of what they do and how they got into it. Sort of, did you always find yourself drawing when you were younger?
Oh yeah, no, like that was like one of the things that like I was known for. Like I was always seeking out paper just so I could draw on it.
Yeah.
Um, I had like a friend in like wait, I think it was like first or second grade or third grade or something. I go over to his house and we just bust out the fucking computer paper and just draw shit. And it was great. Like that was just like how we socialized. To sit down and draw and then show each other our drawings.
Yeah.
Um, like this was back when like the printer paper came all like attached to itself, so like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
could come out like yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no idea.
um so like yeah, like so much of that nonsense, and like like naturally it came and went, and I was like the very small kid who drew all the time, but around high school I started drawing like really sporadically. Like I get really inspired, draw a whole bunch of stuff, and then just go months without touching it, and then
Yeah.
like Newgrounds came around, and like it was kind of funny. Like the more I fell into madness animations and stuff, the less I was drawing on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Um, until it reached a point where I just stopped drawing. Like
Really?
from about 24 until about 32.
Shit, really?
Yeah, when someone, God, like honestly, and this is just like completely shooting from the hip. Like I fully believe that the fact that like I found so much joy in madness animating that like I just stopped drawing, and like my skill there atrophied, and someone had to actually like point out that my drawings aren't very good, that
Oh,
like made me say
really?
like yeah, that like Matt, you're a 32-year-old man, your drawings aren't very good, and I'm like shit, you're right. So like
So
I
you
I
kind of
started
just
talking I
like
started talking to my
get back at
friends,
it.
like my artistic friends, and I was like, "Wait, I'm in the community of artists. I can practice this." And I'm not like great, but like I'm certainly better than I was at 32, and I had like a bit of a rude awakening. And so like, Matt, your drawings aren't very good. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. So like, it just goes to show that like, well, not show, but like that just comes from the background of no formal training, just sort of doing it for the love of it, and
Yeah, for real.
maybe spending too much of my 20s being kind of like carefree about it. And then it wasn't until I got a little older, it's like, no, let's lean in a little bit, let's burn some energy, let's get some stuff done.
Yeah, I mean,
And
you could kind of say like, because I remember somebody saying like, when you made the first Madness Combat, like you weren't really expecting it to. There
oh no,
wasn't
no,
like
it's
there wasn't
just
like a planned, big series with a lore essentially.
like, here I come, Newgrounds, I'm here to take over.
Yeah,
Like, no, I was literally just contributing to Newgrounds in the same way that I saw other people contributing.
yeah.
There were so many good cartoons from that era of like 2000, 2001. I think
Hmm.
Commissioner Kong was back there. You had like the Napster bad cartoons.
I remember the
There's a
Napster
lot.
ones. Yeah, I
Oh
remember
god.
the Napster ones.
Yeah, I think that was Camp Chaos. I don't know what they're
Yeah.
up to these days, but they were really good. And like I was particularly fond of stuff like that because it showed like the high ceiling on Flash, something that I felt like I could never really get close to. Like even today,
Hmm.
like people pushing Flash or Animate like to its limits are absolutely incredible people. But that was the sort of thing that made me think like, this cartoon I'm making is kind of mid. It'll fit right in,
Yeah, you can
and
you'll
people.
find an audience for it somewhere,
Yeah, it's got violence in a park. Everyone loves these things. But like,
and
yeah,
clowns.
as soon as it started picking up, like I was just like, oh wow, and of course the numbers didn't mean anything. Like 100,000 people watched your cartoon, Matt, and I'm like in college, going like, so what does that mean? I drop out of college? I don't get it. You know?
Yeah, it's sort of you don't because they don't really have any context yet.
Yeah, yeah,
You're just kind of like, oh, that's a lot of people. What do I do with that?
yeah. And then like you see the reviews, people like it, and I'm like, cool, I'll make another because I like making it. Well, I'll just be happy. I'll make it. You'll watch it, and we'll just keep this going.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
a kind of cycle of appreciation in that sense.
Mhm, mhm.
It's yeah, it's weird to to imagine, because I guess it was similar with me, but more I guess internally with music was that
Mhm.
I would make something and then I would maybe show it to a few friends or something like that,
Mhm,
and they were
mhm.
like, "Oh, that's really cool." I was like, "Oh, cool. If you like it, then I like making it. It's exactly the same thing." So I would just kind of make little things here and there, and I'd pass them out to people, or I'd message people
Mhm,
like
mhm.
with a link to SoundCloud or something like that.
Right,
Um,
right.
but yeah, I don't. Obviously, there's no real kind of recipe for it. You know, there's no
Oh,
real. There's no rule book in terms of like, oh, how do you gain a following? How do you get popular on the internet? I remember Tom Scott did a video about that, on like how to get
mhm.
popular on the internet, and the end answer to that video was like, I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say like that's a strange one because people are popular for all sorts of silly reasons.
Exactly, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
like shit, didn't Among Us not pick up for like years?
Yep,
Like, when
Among
that
Us was
game,
like, it was out
it
like
was out
since
there for
2000.
years.
Yeah, it was out since
Yeah,
like 2015 or something.
yeah, and then like in 2000 whatever, like it got picked up and memed like crazy, and like there's no way you can count on this shit.
Nope.
You know?
There's no way you can predict like what the next trend is going to be. Like I've seen this.
Mhm.
I got really confused recently. I've seen this massive trend in Metal Gear Rising Revengeance.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, it's great. I appreciate it.
Like
Anything that puts light eyes on that.
yeah, but it like and obviously there's nothing wrong with it. It was just it confused me because like, oh yeah, I played that game like
A
6 years ago.
gazillion years
Yeah,
ago,
like,
yeah, but like
and
everyone
then
got all hype about it.
yeah, and it just in the exact same way with Among Us, like it got memed to hell, and then being spread around everywhere, and people started playing
Mhm.
it for the first time, and I was like, oh shit, okay. It's just
Yeah, because
you
like
could never predict it, man.
yeah, there's that Treasure Island thing going around, that Russian cartoon with the Doctor Livesey or whatever.
Oh god,
Like
yeah.
he's walking funny to that funky beat, and now everyone's picking the cartoon apart and like
Oh
realizing
shit.
that it's actually a quality piece of animation.
Yeah,
So like it's just great to see that sort of thing happen.
yeah, man. God,
Yeah.
yeah. You can never predict what's gonna be popular on the internet
Mhm.
these days. Especially with people like making a million different memes and different,
Mhm, mhm.
whether it's a shit post or whether it's just like a little sketch somebody did.
Right, right.
It's crazy. Like, with your art especially, I mean, you obviously you said you got into drawing, and then when did you sort of make the transition to wanting to animate? Because obviously you said that
Well,
you
like
you had seen
animation, yeah,
flashy
like well,
stuff.
like it was kind of nutty. Like growing up, my dad had an Amiga 500 computer, and on it was like some drawing software. And in that drawing software, you could have frames like up to 100 or something.
Okay.
Very Mario Paint. And like in that, like there was no layers, there was no like keyframing, none of that shit. You just drew on off the canvas, then you moved to the next frame, drew on that canvas, so on and so forth. And I remember thinking that that shit was the coolest. And I was like 9 years old, and everything I made was just awful, awful garbage. But I was super excited about being able to use this software to make animations. And naturally, get older, middle school and high school hit. I just lost track of the Amiga, and then Newgrounds comes. I was like, hey, animation software in the hands of a person. It's like a thing again.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like that was definitely like further leverage of just like shit that I wanted to do, and I seeing it happen, and I need to figure out how to get my hands on a copy of Flash or whatever the hell this is so that I can get in there and start helping.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's weird to think because, I see so many people nowadays, especially in the community, who, are learning animation for the first time, or learning to draw for the first time, and
Mhm.
they've got all these resources just right at their
Oh god,
fingertips,
the
a
resources.
million different programs with a million different tools and plugins, and I mean, I'm not even an artist, and it still baffles me,
Well,
like.
it's just a bit of envy, like in that, like, man, like if a kid knows that he wants to get into animating and art, he is beset on all sides by things that can help them out.
Yep.
It's freaking cool as hell. But like in 2002, if you had a problem with Flash 5 and it wasn't working right, like kind of on your own.
Yeah, maybe you could find some
Yeah.
kind of message board and ask somebody, but that's about it.
Yeah, yeah, you could bug people on Newgrounds, but like, it's not a technical forum. Like, not everyone's going to run into the bizarre issues you're having.
Yeah.
That, and like, it probably might have been my fault too, in that like I don't ask for help a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
like, it's just a lot of me banging on the keyboard, figuring shit out. But come hell or high water, I made it somehow. Um,
Yeah, man. I mean,
these
it's
days, I'm much more prone to asking for help and critique and all that shit, though. So,
that's good. I mean that just kind
yeah.
of shows growth in that sense, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like a lot of it just comes from the fact that I didn't know people were willing to help. You know,
That's
introvert
fair.
problems.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I was
Yeah,
definitely a lot more introverted when I was younger, and I kind of
yeah, yeah,
thought
yeah.
that
And
all
like
my
as a
own
kid,
problems were just my problems and nobody
yeah,
else's.
yeah.
And
It's yeah, I'm so alone with all my issues. No one can help me with this. And then like after a while, you're like, wait, no, we're all dealing with the same horse shit all day.
yeah,
So just
g-
ask and someone will
exactly.
help you. Yeah.
It's funny because you said this earlier, but it's so perfect. It's like the world is on fire, but the world's on fire for everybody, right? So if your world's on fire, you can probably go ask somebody else, and their world's on fire too. So you kind of help each
And you
other
got
out.
something to talk about a little bit. Yeah.
Exactly.
You could like fan the flames or put them out or whatever. Yeah. Just help out.
Absolutely, man. You know, it's weird. I'm kind of going through like what we have to go over here. Like
Sure.
it's it's been, and I was talking to Sean about this when we recorded our episode. It's been a wild fucking journey
Hmm.
for Madness Combat.
Oh
Um,
man. I mean, like if you just want anecdotes, like God, when Madness 3 was coming around, like because Madness 1 and 2, I had just used things I had found online. It was very
mhm,
Wild West, not thrilled with myself for having done it. But like by the third, like it super occurred to me. It's like, wait, Sean's a musician. He makes music on the computer.
yeah,
I'm gonna go over there with a CD on it that has my cartoon and be like, Sean, look at my cartoon. Like, yeah, because I burned it on a CD. That's just
of
how you got
course,
data
yeah.
around. I'm not gonna ask him to go
No
to my
USBs.
Dropbox. Yeah, no, USBs were expensive back in that day,
Yeah,
but
dude,
like
I can
they
imagine.
didn't just hand them out at Walmart like they do now.
Yeah,
Um, but like yeah, yeah, I'd show him my cartoon and he'd be like, whoa, that's fucking cool. And then I was like, yeah, yeah, you know that song from the Tiny Toons, doo 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 doo. He's like, yeah, I know that one. And they started making a song, and then he made something fucking incredible.
and now you've had this relationship that's lasted like 20 years. You know,
Yeah, yeah. Like
it's
come hell or
crazy.
high water, like I keep bugging him for art or music, and he's like, yeah, okay, yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, because it's weird because it's gone into so many mediums and so many different kind of aspects of the internet now. Like, you know, if we're thinking back to like the original Madness Project Nexus, the classic one,
mhm.
on
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
say on
yeah,
Newgrounds, but it was everywhere at some point. You know, whether it was
yeah, yeah.
embedded on Congregate or wherever. Um, but it's just like. It's crazy. It's just crazy to me. I remember joining this server when it was the Discord server, sorry, when it was first created. Um, and then like in within a month we had like 1,000 people, and then 2,000 people, and then
Mhm.
4,000, and then it just kept growing. Like we just hit I don't know if you saw, but we just hit 10,000 people in the Discord
Yeah,
server.
it wasn't too long ago. Yeah, a couple
Yeah,
days.
yeah, and it's
Yeah,
just
I remember it was like I saw that after I had posted a tweet referring back to it. I was like, oh,
yeah,
like have some more people, guys. I guess.
yeah, it was crazy. Like uh and just looking back on the YouTube on your YouTube channel, like even though that like the first uploads were not 20 years ago but 11 years ago, like
Hmm.
just seeing how far everything has come, because it's so surreal to me, because I remember playing Project Nexus Classic,
Hmm.
as a lot of people probably do, as a lot of people who are listening to this, like uh it's been wild. And now you've got Project Nexus 2. Sorry, it's not Project Nexus 2 anymore.
It's just Project
It's just
Nexus.
Project
Yeah,
Nexus. That's my bad. I keep saying
yeah.
that.
We did
um
that. It's yeah.
yeah, and that's doing hella cool. You guys have got
It's
Giving Tree
it's
going.
crazy. Like I'm stunned still that like people are receiving it so well.
Yeah,
Um, because like we wanted to like be a little more opened up in that like if you don't know anything about Madness, it lets you in, and I think it accomplishes that because all the people who are coming in like brand new and fresh to it like don't seem to hate it,
yeah.
which is friggin' cool.
Well,
And
because obviously
it
it's 3D,
yeah.
which is a massive change to the first one.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
which naturally had us terrified, especially since like a lot of the older stuff we were putting together just did not look good.
hmm
And like I hadn't good grips on the 3D software at that point.
yeah.
So
Well, I mean, that's I guess that's a good segue into how did you and Swain, like, I guess, meet, and then also decide that this was something that you wanted to start? Because obviously there was the Kickstarter,
um
all those years ago. Where did that spark kind of start with you and Swain?
I think we met at like the second Comic Con that I ever went to, 2008, I think. He had showed up to that too because we're all a bunch of Newgrounders. He showed up and we hit it off pretty good because we were both fans of Venture Brothers. And then
Hmm.
after the whole of the Comic Con was done, we just connected online. I think it was AOL Instant Messenger at that era.
Oh, hell yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, it was ridiculous. And like, we just shoot the shit from time to time. And I remember like at some point, like we'd talk about work and stuff. He'd tell me about like this stuff he's working on for like online games and shit. And then uh yeah, I think I still got the files for it somewhere, but like we were toying around with this collaborative idea of like Hank and Blockhead. Like Hank was going around shooting his way through a room, and then like Blockhead would interrupt it. And like we had a couple back and forths with it in that like there's a bunch of animation, but like it just never got completed. We kind of had shit to do. So we just kind of left it alone.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the line, we were just like, yo, let's make a game. And this was like after he had made Ambulation with Lewis.
Hmm.
So I was like, all right, yeah, no, what assets do you need? And we started really thinking about like, what, what's the game Bible? Like, do you need people standing to the left, the right? Here's the gun library, a bunch of backgrounds. And actually sitting down and designing it because like at that point, I was super excited about working on anything game wise.
Yeah.
Like you might even be able to like dig through my news posts, but like there was like some things like in the year before Project Nexus like happened. I was trying to get Amanda's Interactive 2 working.
Hmm.
Max Abernethy was like done with it. Max Abernethy being the guy who made Madness Interactive 1.
Yeah, yeah.
But like yeah, he had moved on from these kind of projects, so like he was not interested. And I were like shopping the idea here and there, and no one really wasn't really all that excited about it. But like, since I was talking to Swain at the time, we're just like, dude, Madness game. We could do it. It'll be great. It'll be just like, one of the cartoons and people will love it. And it worked out pretty good.
So it kind of started as a Madness Interactive 2 and then became a full-fledged Flash game with a
Yeah,
story
yeah.
and arena and all that kind of stuff.
A lot of that comes from the fact that like Swain has a really good eye for art and writing.
Hmm.
So like he wasn't purely just taking up the coding and just coding a game out of whatever I gave him. He'd have input, and
Yeah.
that input was super valuable because like he has really good taste, like he knows what works, what doesn't. And like I said, he could write. So like when we started putting shit together, like it felt like really cogent and competently made.
Hmm.
Not that the things beforehand weren't, but like the things that came out before, like Madness Interactive 1 was definitely a passion project of just some college kids.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and Project Nexus, like, sure, it's still just a Flash game, but like we wanted to, lean into it a little bit and kind of like make it shiny on the front so people were excited to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine,
So
so that's what? That's 2011?
I
2012?
want to say 2012 or 13,
Yeah,
12 probably.
12. I think 12 in my head kind of that fits. And so that's around the time of what? Madness, well, that's Combat like oh god, I'm really trying to go back in my memory
You're
now.
asking me to remember that. I don't know.
But
I
like,
was working on 9. I was working on 9 and 10 at the time.
yeah,
I think I was working on 9 and 10. That's about the era.
right.
And
And so, Madness was still definitely, gaining traction, as it
mhm,
always
mhm.
has. But I'm assuming then when the first Project Nexus came out, people like freaked out.
I mean, like they've been clamoring for a side-scrolling shooting madness game from the likes of me, because like Jose and Tom had put together a game which was phenomenal. So like, and people, it's not that people were starving; it's just people couldn't get enough.
Hmm.
So
They
so
wanted they
when
wanted something exactly like that.
yeah, so on top of what Tom and Jose had put together, like here comes me and Swain with another game that like, stages and story and lore and Sanford Demos and Hank, people were
Yeah.
excited about that. So
And so,
it,
oh yeah, you go ahead, go on.
no, no, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
So it's all good, man. So you finish. I'm kind of trying to get like a timeline here, because it
Mhm.
interests me. So you finish the first Project Nexus, and that
Yeah.
goes live, and people are enjoying it. At what point did you go right? We want to go further now. We want to make something
Like
3D. We want to make something really, really big.
like Swain and I are big on like game updates. So like after Project Nexus came out, we set to work on like Project Nexus 1.5, adding new weapons, putting in new arena mode, and so like as we did that, Project Nexus, the file became such a bloated mess that like there was library stack overflows and that like symbols were getting swapped around and shit.
Yeah.
The file was becoming unstable, so we just exported what we had with Project Nexus 1.5 and all this other stuff. We were just like, all right, that's it, that's done. We can't add to it anymore. And like that wasn't the impetus, but it was definitely one of the motivators for like, hey, ad revenue isn't what it used to be. These games don't pay what you know they don't they're just little like flash games. We're hurtling into adulthood here. We really ought to start figuring out a way to make money off of this.
Yeah.
So we started looking at the retail market and we're like, well, I mean, we could learn Unreal and 3D and all that stuff and see where that takes us. And
Hmm.
so that was around the time I picked up a copy of Blender and was just running through the tutorials as fast as I could, like making teacups and donuts and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And Swain had a bit of a head start on that stuff. So like all the assets that you see in like, well, most of the assets, nearly all of them, in fact, from the Kickstarter videos is all him.
Okay.
Like he literally did all that shit. And then I wound up catching up just in time, such that when I landed in Philadelphia, like I had, the 101 of Blender down.
Yeah.
And that's when I started trying to figure this shit out.
And so, because for me, like kind of coming to this as obviously a Madness fan, but at the same time, I guess a bit of an outsider in terms of the sort of timeline of Madness and everything.
Mhm.
When you guys were making that, do you go, okay, we need to make a company, we need to kind of really market this properly and go to Steam and these things like that? Because obviously Giving Tree wasn't always around in terms of
No, no,
Madness.
no. Giving Tree it exists to support Project Nexus. It's true.
Yeah.
Um, and like, yeah, yeah. Because Swain handled so much of the Kickstarter at that point. I was like dealing with moving away from Louisiana and coming to Colorado, and then eventually, and then very quickly moving to Philadelphia from that. And so like my life was kind of a mess at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So Swain really is MVP for like carrying a lot of weight during that time.
Mm-hmm.
He started the paperwork rolling on the Giving Tree thing, such that when I arrived, we were able to like figure that shit out.
Yeah.
Get it in writing that we're 50-50 on it. But like, yeah, yeah, the fact that like we were interested in making a retail, like, well, no, let me take a step back. This was also around the time that Steam Greenlight, I think it was called, where it
Yeah,
was really, really,
before early access and all that.
yeah, this was like it wasn't that difficult to get a game greenlit. Like you just had to post a page to it and then generate enough interest, which we did.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we got in. Um, or rather, yeah, that's the channel that Swain used to get us in.
Yeah.
So
And so then, what? Because obviously there was the Kickstarter to
mhm,
get
mhm.
the funds together to try and kind of really get the thing. You literally kickstarted. That's, I guess you could say.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and so so that was what? That was
That
like
was 2014.
2014. So
Yes.
at what point did you go, right? Holy shit, we can really get the ball rolling on this now.
Um, I mean, like it's really like I think it was around the time the Kickstarter happened because at that point we needed to start really presenting ideas.
Yeah.
And of course, the more we do that, the more these ideas feel real.
Mm-hmm.
So like here's our I want to have Mag Agent Hive. I want to have like these bad guys. I want to have those bad guys. Look at this city idea that I have. Like this is all very exciting. And then like once the Kickstarter goes through with all of its faults and foibles, like we got some cash. Cool,
Mm-hmm.
fly me out to Philly. And then we're sitting there with these new computers. I mean, new, relatively affordable computers.
Yeah,
But
but still the
we're
resources.
yeah, and we're like, okay, let's sit down, let's figure out Unity, and then like start getting things happening. And like I don't know, like it probably just like had a long and low settle in period where I was just like, all right, this is my life now. I got to get better at this 3D stuff. And like I remember being so bad at Blender for so long because like I don't know, maybe I'm just not smart, but like there was that period like halfway through development where I realized that all my models were trash and I started remaking them.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember feeling a distinct massive embarrassment at like just how poorly some of these models or like work files were put together because like I was just using YouTube tutorials. I'm not a very smart dude. I was getting sober at the same time, so I was like,
Yeah.
oh my, like
It was
like
it was a lot to take on, I can imagine.
yeah, yeah. I feel like I could handle all this stuff like so much more deftly, especially in the Blender world. We've been prototyping stuff, and like it's, if I could see me now, if like 10 year ago me could see where I'm at now, I wouldn't believe it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I can absolutely believe that with myself, and I think a lot of people can attest to that. Where you could sort of you look back at the start of a project like
Hmm.
this, and then like I remember when it came out, like
Hmm.
and then it was like it's out, like it's here. It's
Now what?
it's there, like it's like there it is.
Right, right.
there's the Steam page. There's the fucking awesome trailer and all this kind of stuff. Like
People are talking about it. People are liking it. People are hating it. This is great.
yeah,
Yeah.
like people are buying it, people are playing it, people like this kind of thing that took so long to sort of get going. For a lot of
Mhm.
people, weirdly enough, and yeah, this still boggles my mind, but like there are people who are playing Project Nexus who were
Mhm.
like 3 years old or 5 years
When
old when
we
it was
announced it,
when you
yeah,
announced it.
that
Like
that
you've
one
been
kills me.
making
Like
this
when
game
people
for the majority of that person's life.
when people point that shit out, I was like, I was 12 when I kickstarted, and now I'm like a grown ass man with kids and family and shit. I'm like, fucking what?
Yeah,
Weird.
yeah, and now it's like it's there, and sort of everything that you guys put into it, and are still putting into it. Um,
Mhm.
it's all there. Like, did you guys feel relieved? Did you still feel kind of stressed when it came out? Did you still feel like there was a
No,
lot to do?
I felt relief, but like not a whole lot of it. Swain absolutely did not. Once that got kicked off the pier, as it were, and started floating naturally, like with all software, it started to show its faults and failings.
Yeah.
And so, like for that first month after release, he did not sleep. Yeah, he was on fucking call. Like had to deal with this shit. So, like I can't say enough good things about the dude for putting in the time and making sure that nothing would just be left behind.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Um,
even to
because
this day, like,
we've reached a point with the bug reports that they're starting to become really trivial, and I'm like, awesome, awesome. We can not fix any of these, and the game is fine.
yeah,
You know?
like
Yeah.
it's to a point now because obviously, yeah, I remember when it came out, and for the longest time there was the closed beta, and
Hmm.
still a lot of work to do because I think a lot of people don't realize that you think if you think about games like No Man's Sky or anything like that,
Hmm.
like that didn't necessarily have the best release, but there's
Hmm.
a lot that goes into a game even after it's been released. You know,
Oh yeah, yeah.
like you
Especially
don't just
these
kind of
days.
release it and that's it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like back in the day, that was absolutely how it was done. But since we have the ability to, you know, keep working on a game after it's out, like we took that opportunity and like add content to it, like
Yeah.
we're curious about like DLC and like what we can add on to it if we're charging for it, because
Oh,
when you charge
don't start like we'll have people like there's a DLC
Nick.
coming from Madness.
No, that's the thing. We need to understand if it's like something we actually want to dump a year of time into.
Yeah, of course.
um but like, yeah, the free updates and stuff are going to continue because I mean it's our baby and we want to keep interested in it.
Yeah,
That and the game
absolutely,
doesn't
man.
have an MP7 in it, and someday I got to put one in there.
Really, I was gonna say
Yeah,
I feel like that's a classic weapon,
it's
especially a
very
classic
classic.
and a classic Madness weapon as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a handful of weapons I want to get in the game, maybe some armors and outfits, all sorts of nonsense I'd really like to just see in there one day. Um, once we get over this phase of prototyping we're in right now.
Yeah, I mean, should we be expecting anything on the horizon?
I wouldn't.
Anything
I
big?
wouldn't. No, I wouldn't, if only because I don't like people anticipating things for too long.
That's fair.
Um, Like, yeah, because like I don't want people to like, hey, where'd that one project you guys were working on go? And then I have to explain that like it was flawed on some level that would require a lot of explanation to, because like we've got all these ideas and some of them just don't work. Like
Yeah,
I could pitch the idea to you and you'd be like, wow, that sounds great, and then I'd be like, cool, come back in 8 months or 8 weeks and be like, no, it turns out like the way we were approaching is no good. We just scrapped the whole thing, put it on the shelf. We're working on something else now.
yeah.
Like people don't, well, I mean, I hate to say it, people don't understand. It's ridiculous, but like a big part of the process is just making things and sometimes spending a lot of time on it and then realizing there's no future in this.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
that's the
putting it
thing.
on the shelf. Yeah, and then
I
putting
feel
it on
like
the
that's the
shelf so
whole.
that you can, yeah, but you can still pull from it because
Yeah.
uh like uh like one of the earlier incarnations we were working with, like, it was a cityscape that I had put together, but like I'm still pulling assets from that city like things that are made by Giving Tree or by Swain and me, like in service to Giving Tree's in like what it wants. Like those are still things that we can use. There's still like even an idea like that didn't pan out is still time spent thinking about something and like developing opinions on how to approach problems.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and so like the latest thing that we're looking at right here like has us we're goofing around with these like shader stuff and like how to use the deferred renderer to make multiple light sources do a very cute thing,
Hmm.
stuff like that. And like all the while I'm putting together like art assets for like, what does the environment look like, what do the people look like, how realistic do we want it to be, like not at all, do we want it to look like a drawing, like. And we're goofing around with this stuff and it's starting to look like this last one's starting to look pretty good, but like I don't want to talk about it too much because like, what if it doesn't go anywhere and we pick up one of the older ones and chase that one down instead,
Yeah, I
so.
mean, I think going back to what you said, like, I think saying people don't understand isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think it's just a fact that not everybody's a game developer. Not everybody, runs a company that's trying to actually make a game and make something that you guys are proud of, you know?
Mhm, mhm.
And so, I see it a lot where, and I definitely saw it a lot when the game was sort of nearly out, like, especially during the closed beta stage, like, people were just
That last
clamoring.
year,
Yeah,
that last year, yeah, it got pretty spicy because like we'd hear the criticism leveled at us as like, well, shit or get off the pot, like blah blah blah. And there's arguments for and against that sort of thing. It's like, listen, like we've tried really hard not to be pushing on the media side of things because we want to take as long as we need to get this thing out there. Um,
yeah,
because like if you tell people like, hey, we're working on a game, all you're going to do is get the question, when's it coming out, when's it coming out,
exactly.
when's it coming out, and
Yeah,
then like if you spend like years answering that question with I don't know, maybe later, like it becomes really really lame. So like we just we're excited about this prospect of just working on something, and
yeah.
then like when we're close to getting done we'll say something. um
Well, I think a
but
lot of
yeah, no,
people in any kind of medium, there's a lot of people who have the habit of like, the moment something happens, it's like, oh, I got this really cool, like, CM Punk, the wrestler,
mhm.
they had this like big thing, where he goes silent on a lot of stuff that he's doing, and I think a lot of people should kind of do maybe more of this. Is that, you find out about this cool thing, you go, oh, and then you scream it out to the world. I got this really cool thing happening. You guys are gonna love it. There's this big thing coming, but I can't tell you. I need to tell you more later. And then something
Mhm.
falls through, and then you just kind of look like that guy who was screaming about something, and
Had a
then
great idea
and
and then
then
didn't
nothing
go anywhere with
happened.
it. Yeah.
And I think that, it's definitely important to sort of choose the right time for hype,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
there's been a lot of documented cases of
And it's
games.
difficult too because like you can never really like count on how long it's going to take to do things. And of course I say this like because like when the Kickstarter came out, we really thought we could make a game in 2 years.
Yeah,
We really thought we
like,
could
you
do
weren't
it.
lying. You just didn't
Yeah.
know, I guess.
I mean, hey, lie's a lie no matter how you dress it up. But like, yeah, we got to the 2 year point and I was like, we have a lot of game here. But like one of the reasons why we didn't just kick what we had off the pier and said like there it is, there's your $50,000 game, have fun, bye, is because like we were starting to like get good at this shit. We started
Yeah,
like the texturing, the modeling, and like all the world was starting to look like something. We're like, oh, wait on, everyone's gonna hate our guts. We're gonna push this thing for another year, and we're gonna
yeah.
see how much better it looks. And then like we did that for like what 5-6 million years. It was
Hmm.
awful. And again, like I can't say enough good things about the community because like while they were generally they were there was people getting annoyed by it, but like they were generally supportive of the endeavors. And
Yeah, absolutely.
like and I was just like, oh my god, bless you guys. Also, it's going to take another year. Like
Yeah. Well, I mean,
so.
it's always
But
going to be
like
like
I
that with
feel like the
anything,
final product. I feel like the final product is worth it, but like only in the sense that I feel like I got like a college education out of it in terms of like working on game design and Blender and all that shit.
Yeah, well,
Like
I
a
mean,
6 year crash course on how to make shit.
I remember seeing the old videos and the old screenshots for like the original Kickstarter stuff,
Oh yeah,
and it looked good back then. But then you
it
see,
looked fine. Yeah.
but then you see like just how much taking a year, 2 years, 3 years, however many years to really work on it and really simmer with it, like,
Mhm.
and let it really become something, and then you
Yeah.
finally release it and it's better. And like, I've seen I've seen plenty of people, especially when the game came out, like they literally said it was better than they were even anticipating, you know,
Mhm, mhm.
because and there's been so many documented cases of games that have released too soon and then they fall flat on their face because it wasn't what everybody was expecting.
Oh Christ. Yeah,
You
no,
know?
like there's plenty of like on the topic of YouTube, there's plenty of like channels that follow like companies or game development that like gets pushed out the door way too fast, like Ultimate 8, Blood 2. There's a whole shitload of them. But
Yeah.
like these games that like you could see the missing content, like or the busted ass like uh, was it the gameplay, like it's just broken, it's janky, it's not whoever made this didn't test it enough, but like then you get the backstory of like the developer, or the publisher rather, like they needed it on the shelves like at this date,
Yep.
and they were totally willing to put a broken game out there, and like that's, I don't know, it's interesting to see that shit, because like as a kid growing up, and like when a game comes out and it's shitty and you don't know why, like what's I don't understand, and then you grow older and you're like, oh right, it's because people with funny interests are fighting with each other,
Yeah.
and it's affecting my damn video games.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of the times with a lot of like kind of bigger AAA games, like the with studios and publishers getting involved, that was almost their downfall.
Mhm,
In a
mhm.
sense, especially like going back to No Man's Sky, like obviously that was like one of the biggest like publicized ones.
Highest publicity, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And you start looking into the background of it, and you see that the moment Sony got involved,
Mhm,
I'm not
mhm.
saying like that, having a big publisher get on board isn't a good thing because you've got more money, you've got more backing, that's all well and good. But
Yeah,
then,
I understand the thing with No Man's Sky was something of a perfect storm of issues.
yeah, exactly. But at the end of the day, they were forced to meet a deadline that they just couldn't, but they had to anyway. And so whatever was done when it was going to be released, that's what was put out. And thankfully, and mad respect to those guys because they really put in the work and they just went dark for
Yeah,
like 6 months.
it just like fixed everything. They didn't even have to. They could have just left.
Yeah, and and
That's
a lot of companies have. A lot of companies have put out a broken game, taken the money and run.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
I really respect what they did in terms of they they didn't try and bullshit on social media. They didn't try and give excuses. They just literally, like, you can go back and look, like the No Man's Sky Twitter went dark for like 6 months,
Mhm.
like
No,
nothing,
yeah, yeah,
zero
yeah.
replies, zero tweets, and then out of the blue, hey, here's a big update, and they fixed like a million things, and then
Right.
a
No,
month
there's
later, another update, and they actually made the game even better than they first promised it would
yeah.
be.
Took some doing, but they got there.
Yeah, dude, for real. And I really wish more games companies did that. Even if if not releasing it when it should be released, when it's actually done, actually kind
Mhm.
of giving more of a damn about the game than the money. You know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like you're making. I'm very much in the games are art kind of guy. So
Yeah,
like, you're
absolutely.
making some art out here. Making money's great. Don't get me wrong. Make all the money you can, but like you're still making art.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got
Yeah,
fans involved. You got people who
yeah.
are actually really looking forward to this kind of stuff. And if I was a
Mhm, mhm.
creator in that kind of space, I would feel almost indebted to to those people because
Oh
they're the
yeah,
ones
yeah.
that got you to that place in the first place.
Oh no, absolutely. I'm Patreon and Etsy supported. These kids are the wind beneath my wings. Like,
Yeah, dude.
I try to do them proud.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Well, we've been going for about an hour 25. It never feels
Mhm.
like it. It always feels like it flies by.
Yeah, it
Um,
really does.
I don't know if you want to wrap things up or you want to keep going.
We
I'm
could probably
cool
get
with it.
nail up another couple of talking points.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I gotta like get to lunch. I gotta get to dinner here before it gets too late.
yeah,
But no,
dude.
we got some more time.
Okay. Cool. So I mean, I've kind of gotten through a lot of it. There was
Mhm.
one that I got a few questions about,
Sure,
when I was talking to people about it, and uh, it's more of a personal topic. But
sure.
if you don't feel comfortable talking about it, that's completely understandable.
Hmm.
Um, but I know you sort of you mentioned it in passing earlier, and I know it's something that you and I both have kind of had experience with was um, becoming sober.
Hmm. Oh no, yeah, yeah. I'm pretty open about that stuff. But I mean, like, what aspect of it in general, like just how it pertained to my journey through Project Nexus specifically.
Yeah, I mean, sort
Um,
of how did it, because you mentioned sort of getting sober throughout the development of the first Project Nexus.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Well,
and
like,
so,
no, I got sober during the retail version.
oh, right, okay, okay.
My sober date is, what was it, 2017, March 24th, I believe.
Dude, hell yeah.
Um,
I'm
yeah, no, it's
well
I
done,
don't
man.
even check the days anymore. Like once you reach a couple years, you're just kind of out of it. But
Yeah.
like and that was like a couple years after we got into the game. And like by the time I had landed in Philly, like I knew I had a problem and like was taking steps to try and prevent it from being an issue.
Yeah.
And by and large, it worked. It's just sometimes these binges would come around and like remind me, "It's like, Matt, you need to quit this shit once and for all."
Hmm.
Because like I'd miss work for like a few days at a time because like I just wasn't functioning. It's alcoholism, man. It's a disease. Well, disease. I don't know. It's a sickness of the mind.
It
You
is.
get real fucked up from it.
It's an addiction, man. You know.
Yeah, yeah, and you just get all fucked up, and you start realizing like the root of it, like because it's seldom, very rarely is it about the substance itself. It's
Oh
about like
no.
it's a there's a reason for the using, and like as soon as I started figuring that shit out and realizing that I'm not alone, introvert problems,
Yeah.
and that I could just talk to people and sort it out. Like that's when a lot of light started getting into my head, and I think a lot of people noticed that like my art shifted in terms of like quality and tone around that time because I wasn't such a miserable person anymore. Like I
Hmm.
talked to the right people and I started like realizing that like I'm lucky and fortunate and blah blah blah
Yeah.
and
It's
it's
changing your
been a
mindset, you know.
I mean yeah and it's difficult to realize that like well it's not easy to change your mindset and
No.
perspective is everything.
Yeah.
I feel
I
like
absolutely understand that.
two people could be in the same situation and one could be having the time of his life and one could be miserable about it.
Yeah.
And this is not a great example of it, but like really, really try and look at things, not always on the positive side, but like in just ways you have to just conceptualize the world around you as something that you can accept and you don't have to fight all the time.
Hmm.
Um, because I found that like I'm a pretty I would say like malicious person, but like I found that like when left to my own devices, the voice in my head would just start tearing into myself, and I realized that that was because I've got a lot of like hostility about me,
Yeah.
and that hostility likes to turn inwards, and that never really led anywhere good ever. So like as soon as I started identifying that asset or facet of my mind, rather, I started being able to use it to my advantage. Like and brother, you're just passion and energy. That's all you are. I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
Like if I can't sleep, I'm not going to spend all night denigrating myself. I'm going to bust out the sketch pad or like get some keyframing done. Maybe
Hmm.
or hell, just set up the squat rack and get to it.
Yeah.
Like it's I like it's so difficult to like explain like what's going on in the mind, of course, because there's no language in there. But like yeah, that was kind of like the thrust of it, just kind of like adjusting my attitude because I wanted to see this project through and I wanted to stop hurting myself and the people around me. So that of the many motivators to like stop destroying themselves,
Yeah.
Project Nexus was absolutely one of them.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, I'm seriously super happy that you are where you are now, and
Oh, same.
I seriously respect getting through that because I've been through it as well.
Mhm.
And
Oh yeah,
I know
it's
that
never fun.
I know that when you and I started talking, um, we kind of sort of talked about it a couple times in
Hmm.
passing, and sort of talked about how we both got through it, and and yeah, I think that not to make this make this podcast like super
A meeting.
personal and like you know uh giving advice, but uh yeah, I think that's a good way to think about it is kind of getting a new perspective and getting a new visualization on the life that you're
Mhm.
living.
Yeah,
um
understand what you are, who you are, like you're because like I felt like a lot of like well, I mean, it's just like when I'm tearing into myself, I don't really think about what I'm doing. I'm just doing it. And then
yeah.
like once it's like catching yourself with a nervous tick. You're like,
Hmm.
shit, I saw you. You did that. You denigrated yourself. Stop it. And
Yeah.
like, like it's always harder than it sounds. Like I can tell you to stop doing that, and then actually doing it's another process. But like, yeah, being able to like identify when you're doing this shit, when you're chewing on yourself, when you're bleeding yourself, and you're like, you got to stop that. You can't keep tearing your own veins out.
Yeah.
And so like as soon as I started not standing in my own way, like I felt like a functioning adult.
Yeah, dude.
Like I felt normal.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I
Yeah,
absolutely feel that. And I
yeah.
and I and I really like that that you were talking about how like Project Nexus was a big factor in that, and art
Mhm,
and things like that. And it was a similar experience with me with music.
mhm.
And so I think I'm glad that we kind of have
Oh yeah,
a
yeah.
similar
Art's
understanding with that, you know?
yeah, art's incredible for that sort of thing. Because like I got plenty of like ventilation pieces that'll never see the light of day that like absolutely mean the world to me.
Yeah.
And like I feel like that happens to a lot of artists, and there's something really special about that. And that like I know like all these artists that I have contact with, there's a bunch of art that I'm never gonna see, and that's fucking beautiful.
Yeah,
Like
because
because it's
it's your
yeah.
own kind of personal internalization of your feelings that is
Mhm.
constructive and not destructive, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. They're just sorting things out. It's yeah, we got an interesting way of doing things.
Yeah, but you know what? As interesting it is, and I know from my experience, from your experience, from a lot of people's experience, it does work.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
that is something that I am always thankful for is being able to make art in the form of music, or if if you draw, or if
mhm.
you make animation, or a voice act, or anything like that. And that's I feel like this is a good kind of uh good point to wrap it up. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
this podcast is about creative people, and
That's not we could have ended on a much worser ending, but this is good.
yeah, and I think if y'all are still here, an hour and 30 minutes in, um, art is a great way to get those kind of feelings out. And it can help you, and it can help other people. It's just one of those things that it's the gift that keeps on giving, you know?
Yeah, no, it's therapeutic. I love it. You get to draw and you ask yourself why you drew it, and then like chase that line of inquiry down, and maybe you learn a little something about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, this was a lovely hour and a half, Matt. I gotta
No,
admit.
absolutely, man. Thanks for having me aboard.
Dude, anytime, honestly. I'm super glad that even though this is only the second episode, or I think it'll be the second episode when I upload it,
Mhm.
but whichever episode it is, I'm super glad that the people I get on here have a good time as well, because it's not about me, it's about the artists and the
Yeah, yeah,
people who
and
make the
us
difference, you know?
blathering in a way that's hopefully entertaining.
Yeah, I'm sure that people will find all of the stuff that we talked about interesting. At least I hope so, and I hope that whoever's
That's the idea.
still listening, that you had a good time on this journey. And yeah, this has been From the Beginning, episode 2. Um, thank you, Matt, so much for being here,
No
man.
problem, man. Absolutely.
And yeah, we will both see you guys soon. And that is that. Another episode in the books, guys. I really hope you enjoyed listening. I had a hell of a time with Matt. He's such an interesting guy, you know? At least I think so. I hope you guys think so too, you know? We had a great sit down, chatted about life, as you heard, chatted about a bunch of things. It was kind of a sort of chaotic run to try and get him on the show, because there were a few times where we scheduled some things and, things didn't quite work out. So we had to sort of push things back a little bit, but we finally got it done, and I'm super happy with how it came out. And I'm super happy with how I'm feeling with this podcast as well, because it's not a natural thing to kind of be the host of something and try and keep a conversation going and keep things flowing. But you know what? I think I'm giving it a good go, and I think that so far, even though this is only the second episode, I think so far it's going pretty well. And I'm learning everything I can along the way, learning new tips and tricks, and how to edit properly, and how to properly mix audio tracks, as people were telling me from the first episode. But yeah, I think give it a few more episodes and we'll really get into the swing of things around here. And I hope you guys will stick along for the ride, because I think we got something really special here. And I know that my first few guests have been very Madness, Combat, and Newgrounds themed. It's not always going to be like that, because I want this to be a creatives podcast. It just so happens that some of the people in my circles were Madness creators, and I still think that, the episodes with them were still pretty cool. So, I've hopefully got a few more guests lined up, some pretty cool people, musicians, artists, that kind of thing, people who can tell some good stories, and maybe give some advice along the way to people who might be wanting to get into that kind of industry, As always, there'll be links in the description to Matt and Project Nexus and all the stuff that he does, as well as my socials, the socials for the podcast. If you guys want to keep in touch, send me an email, send me a tweet, anything like that, and you want to keep in touch and give me some ideas, maybe recommend some guests, give me some tips and tricks for this whole podcast and business, that would be much appreciated. I think that's all I've got to add today. So yeah, once again, I hope you guys enjoyed. Please subscribe and share and like and all those weird things if you enjoyed it. If you know anybody who might be interested in, listening to what Matt had to say, share it with your friends and see what they think, It would really mean a lot. It really does mean a lot to me to try and get this out there and hope that people enjoy it, because I enjoy it and the guests enjoy it, and that's an important thing to me. It makes me feel really happy. So I think for now, my name is Tom. This has been From the Beginning, FTB. See you guys next time.